Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Captain Shaq here, and welcome back to Space Engineers. Today we're taking a look at the water mod. Now, I've gotten myself in a bit of a predicament. We're about to take off from the aircraft carrier Unicorn, I believe it's called. I'll put a link in the description so you guys can check it out. We're aboard one of our training aircraft, one of our little prop planes that we've used for the Armco community events. Let's go ahead and get the throttle on and get taken off. Now, you can't tell right now, but the seas, or at least this very large lake that I've set us up in, are moving like crazy. There's about a 10-meter swell right now. So that aircraft carrier, though you couldn't tell because we were sitting attached to it and on it, let me get a little bit more altitude. As we do a flyby of the aircraft carrier, you'll be able to see it. That thing is really moving around. Now, I have been trying to land on this for quite a bit now. We're streaming this over on Twitch, so if you see any pop-ups, you'll know that's what's going on. Let me come ahead and turn around. Let me get a little bit more altitude. There's the aircraft carrier. There's also a small destroyer next to it, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that in this rough weather. But we're gonna take a deep dive today, pun completely intended, into the water mod, and why I think this mod is right up there along the aerodynamics mod and the other wing mods that allowed us to build all of those aircraft that we've been having fun with for a few years now. Let's go ahead and make our approach and see if we can land. We have another mod installed currently. I need to start bleeding a lot of altitude, so we're gonna do a little serpentine pattern here. See if we can bleed a little bit as we fall out of the sky. Current speed is 69. There it is. We're gonna come in really, really fast because the other mod that we're trying out, by the way, is the hook mod, which, did it get me? It didn't get me, it didn't get me. Oh, okay, abort. We're gonna try again. At least we didn't crash and explode. Block damage is on. I'm surprised we didn't, did we lose a landing gear? We didn't lose a landing gear. All right, what's our speed? Speed's okay. Get that artificial horizon up a little bit higher. And let's go for one more try. There's the aircraft carrier. We'll get a better approach on it this time. And we'll give it a go. Now, you can't believe that altitude indicator. We got 780 meters right now because we're over a bunch of water, and that doesn't show sea level. It shows where the ground is near us. And we're actually above the city of Armitage, built by the community and morphologists, has been flooded, and it's actually at the bottom of the ocean right now. So that'll be cool to check out. But all right, let's try this one more time. So we have the hook mod, which I will put a link to. That little wheel at the very back, that hopefully will be able to hook onto the aircraft carrier and stop us as we come in. I'll leave it in third person so y'all can see what's going on. I'm gonna come in way too fast. And hopefully get the hook. Got it, it hooked me. Beautiful. Oh, that is so freaking cool. Well, welcome everyone. Let me jump out, I'll shut her down. Welcome aboard the aircraft carrier. Let me jump off the side and I'll turn my jetpack on and you can see how much this boat is actually moving around. All right, so watch my speed in the corner. We're at, there, we're not moving. And we had this thing really moving earlier. So the coolest thing about the water mod is the fact that you can completely customize it the way you want per planet. It sets the settings based on what planet you're nearby. Now what I'm gonna do is turn off all of the weather so you guys can see what's actually happening here. Weather, remove weather. And there's that other little like destroyer over in the corner, which it looks like it might have actually taken some damage? Maybe? Nah, yeah, no, it's totally taken some damage. Yeah, that storm was a little rougher than we thought. Oh, that is so freaking cool, though. So you can totally customize it. I will open up the menu here so y'all can see. Here are all the commands. You can change things like the speed of which the waves come in. You can change the height, which really gets your craft getting kind of thrown around, the depth or the radius of the water for the planet. And once you've set that, it will fill, based on that radius, a layer of water all the way around the world. And you can go diving into it. And it's not just a visual thing. As I start to sink below the waves, we'll just go ahead and let my character sink here. It actually has gameplay effects. You can change the viscosity of the water, so you move slower when you're inside it. As you get deeper down, after you hit about 500 meters, you actually start to take damage. If you open up your helmet while you're underwater, you will immediately start taking damage, but I'm in admin mode right now, so I won't take any damage. Block damage is on, but not character damage as we continue to sink. It does give you my depth readout, currently 260 meters and dropping as we approach the flooded city of Armitage. which doesn't actually look half bad. The mod itself comes with a bunch of effects to let you know that you're underwater. You've got bubble effects. You'll see fish every once in a while if you're really keen-eyed and keep your eyes open. It does have a physics effect on boats, as you saw from above, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But let's go ahead and take a little walk around the bottom here. Now, as of making this video, check the date on the video. There are no block damage. In other words, if you build like a submarine or an underwater base and you go deep underwater, there's no crush depths yet for blocks. Now, I'm hoping he includes them in some way so we can start designing craft that might be able to go deep down underwater. But so far, nothing like that, other than the fact that your character will start to die at 500 meters, meaning you're gonna have to build some kind of vehicle to get even deeper down. Somebody in chat just said, oh man, somebody could build Rapture or Welcome to Rapture. Somebody's actually already done that, and I wonder what that mod looks like in here. Turning my jetpack on, we'll be able to move around a little bit underwater, but you can totally make sealed environments and then drain the water out of it, which is quite cool. Walk around and look down here. Down below the waves. She's starting to roll. Yes, she's rolling. She's rolling over. Which way's up? Carrier's right there, so yeah. Disappearing beneath the waves. How freaking cool is that? Oh, there it goes. It's totally working. Leveling out. Oh, it looks fantastic too. And then the engines in the back, which I'm guessing are just a bunch of rotors. Yeah, they're just a bunch of rotors with blades attached to them. I'm gonna assume there are some thrusters built into the hull somewhere that are actually pushing it along. Now, you could use, I don't think there are very many mods in this, for this particular world, but you could use the prop pack, and it'd function just as well as some kind of thruster. It even has torpedo launchers in the front, so, that is cool. All right, so let's talk about how the mechanics of this mod actually work, how you're going to set it up, and what you can do once you've got liquid water in your game. So we're on a map that I've used a number of times for a few videos. I think it's really cool. It's an older world that was customized to look like an apocalyptic wasteland. And this is before we had the texture system for various blocks. So you can see how he's kind of pulled it off. We've got wreckage down there, cars, all kinds of fun stuff. I thought this would be a neat world space to see covered in water, as if we have to dive down deep, maybe salvage components and parts from the ocean's floor. There's also, if we look over here, a crashed, what do they call it? Space elevator. It's fallen over. I'll put a link to this map as well in the description. So here's what you're gonna do. Once you've added the mod to your game world, you're gonna want to also add the text API and check the date on this video to make sure that there aren't any other requirements to get the water mod working. Should be just those two mods though, and you're good. Load up the map, and then you're gonna wanna type in this command into chat, /wcreate, or create water is what we're doing. Once we hit enter, we will find ourselves immediately underwater. Now, if you don't see water, you might be too high up on maybe a mountain or a piece of terrain, and the water is below you. And there you go, it's already set up. Now, all those options that I mentioned earlier in the video, you can use to customize this. Now, be warned, with this version of the mod, as we dive down, if we hit 500 meters, we will start taking damage. Also, let me close my helmet because I'm in admin mode. I'm not taking any damage. I would start immediately dying if my helmet is open, as my suit starts to fill with water. Now, while we were streaming today, the mod developer actually popped into chat and answered a few questions. He's still developing it. He actually had an update today, so that is on the way. I don't know what else they're going to be adding. He wouldn't give any hints. There is another part, though, that you might want to think about doing. If you're going to play with the water mod, turn on the realistic sounds option for your world. You'll get the breathing sound. I don't know if you guys can hear that on YouTube. It's very, very light, but it'll sound so much better underwater. So now that we've got this in, let's walk around a little bit. As we get deeper down underwater, we actually lose more and more of the light, so it gets... Oh, that's cool. The trees are a little off-putting, but the actual world space. And if you find the jetpack too fast, you can always change the, how thick, whatever the, what's the word for it that he uses? Viscosity of the water, so you'll have more drag. But this will also slow down any of your vehicles in the water, so keep that in mind. If you feel like your submarines are flying around too much like spaceships from in traditional Space Engineers, then you're probably gonna wanna change the viscosity setting. But oh, look at that. You turn on our lights here, which actually look really cool if you go into spectator mode. You can see the lights from farther away. So if we spectator cam, oops, too much and too far. If we can find, there's the light source right there. You can actually see the lights from pretty far away and walk around a bit. Now, there are a couple of other functions. Now that we've got water on the map, we can play around with some of the other things that we can do. I'm gonna load up our Sunday Survival Series save, and you can see some of the game mechanics that are attached to this. All right, so welcome back to our Sunday save for the streams. We're sitting on our little hydrogen outpost, and that's the first part of the game mechanics that I want to talk about that this adds. That water is interactable and more than just diving into it or building things that float. You can actually mine it. It kind of takes the place, or straight up takes the place of ice. There is still ice in the world. This is that same lake that we live nearby, and deep, about 500 meters under the water, there is a layer of ice down there we could mine, but why grab hydrogen from ice when we can just pull it from water? And that's exactly what this base does. Let me jump down here. Tex actually managed to put this together with a lot of the extra components and parts. The whole thing is being powered by a single wind generator up there, which is completely unnecessary because we've got 2 hydrogen generators running. You can hear those engines humming away. And that hydrogen starts out right over here. I'll even jump in the water so y'all can see it. Let me shut my mask. It's like it's starting to rain. You can see the bubbles. This is a collector. Now, in vanilla Space Engineers, collectors aren't super useful, but in this they are now if you're using this mod, because you can suck in water, which, since there is no water item in the game actually uses the ice block. So it sucks in water to create ice, which is being fed into our collection system here and immediately going into a hydrogen generator, which is then taking that ice, turning it into hydrogen, filling up our extra tanks, and running the generators, which are powering the base. So that's one of the things you can do. You can make a power or fuel generation platform. Maybe if you've got a lot of ships or vessels that are using hydrogen engines, you can stop down near the lake or local water source and refuel them. You can even attach these to vehicles if you want, like say your boat or an oil platform or whatever you're building, your raft, and suck in water that way and make your power for your vehicle straight out of the water. It's actually quite cool. So that's one of the things that you can do. One of the other features, I guess you could say gameplay mechanics, is, well, the way that it can kill you. If you walk into the water with your helmet open, you immediately start taking damage. I'm down to 68 health now. If I close this and I walk into the water, sadly, one of the things that the mod doesn't do is get rid of trees. So if there are trees on the world that you use to create water on, they will still be there underwater. You can see them in the distance over there. You can see this big bush sitting here. I mean, it is what it is. There are plenty of modded worlds, and those modded worlds seem to work just fine for spawning water. If you don't want... Oh, I'm out of hydrogen now, so I can't actually jump up. If you don't want trees, which is actually kind of the fun, because if you pick out one of the worlds with really, really crazy terrain features, right? High mountains, deep canyons. Imagine all that, but underwater now, where you can do some exploration, especially for survival games. Be pretty awesome. Mechanic that I talked about earlier, there's a really good example of this, is right where we ended the stream last week. If I dive under the water here, and go deep, deep underwater, I don't have realistic sounds turned on this save. If we go over and find out where the base is, we actually built an underwater base, if we can find it. And there's that ice layer that I was talking about. There it is. There it is, deep underwater. Got it. Just had to go through a ton of... We had Alti actually logged out in here. Let's just go ahead and teleport inside. So right now, I am in a sealed environment with an airlock. We've got a vent in here, and I should be able to open up my helmet, and I don't take... There we go. I don't take any damage. So this is... how deep are we? We're 450 meters underwater, not taking any damage and able to survive under here. So you could bring in, I guess an airtight vessel would be no problem. You can make submarines. Now that's the other thing that I wanted to bring up. Let me close my helmet. We're gonna walk outside. We're not quite at crush depth yet. So we'll go ahead and cycle this. Actually, if we want to show, is his helmet open or closed? Ah, it's closed, okay. I was gonna say I could open this up. If I open this though, there. Notice everything is a lot darker in here now. There's no whooshing sound. There's no, oh, there goes a fish. Nice. There are fish just randomly swimming around. But if I go ahead and close this, it should automatically. Yep. And then you can see that pop on to fill the space with air. Very cool. Very cool. Sea Lab 2020. I can totally see us building that. And then we've got our power supply. There's the hydrogen engine running. And then our power supply is literally coming from sucking in the water there with a little bit of a bubbling effect. The electrical shock effect on a lot of blocks have been replaced with the bubbling effect, it seems. So if you see that, you might mean that one of your blocks are damaged. So we're deep underwater. The deeper you go, the darker it gets. Even if I bring up the... Let's go back to admin tools here and then switch my camera back to me. If I bring up my admin tools, even if I move this around time of day, like it doesn't really make a huge difference other than there's some weirdness with how the light shines through the water in this version. I'm hoping he comes up with a solution to that because it doesn't seem like the water blocks out the sun properly. You wouldn't be able to see that from, you know, this crazy depth. At least not like that. Not like it's the surface of the freaking sun. It's so bright. But so we're down here. Let's talk about buoyancy. There are different buoyancy levels for different blocks. We've been experimenting with a few. Let me make sure my admin tools are on so I can spawn some stuff. And you can see... Oh, nope. Okay, we're going to go onto the roof. I do have some interesting AI threats in this world. If you've never seen the Weekend series, those are the wasted bots trying to murder us. But certain blocks have different buoyancy. So let's say this Gatling gun, probably going to sink. Yep. But if I switch over to something like... do I have... I do not. Let's pull out a wheel. So we grab something like a tire. And you might imagine this would probably float, right? Yep, it floats. Not very fast. I don't think it's that buoyant, but there it goes. But there are other blocks, and this is how you actually make craft that will sit there and float. You have to use tanks. The way the mod works is it doesn't care how you build your boats, right? It doesn't care that you've made a space that looks like a rowboat, or it looks like it's holding out the water around it. You know, it's displacing a certain amount of air, or a certain amount of water. It doesn't care. What it does care about is this. It cares that you use one of the buoyancy blocks. Basically, your H2 tanks, your oxygen tanks, or your hydrogen tanks. This is what's going to get to float. I'm actually going to go and look at the faster way to do this. Let me switch over to spectator cam, and we'll switch over to my crappy little raft that I was messing around with while I was figuring out how this mod works. So it's just floating around here. This used to be a ground vehicle that we converted into a raft. It is probably the ugliest thing we have ever built. Let me go ahead and just pop myself up here. But it does float, and the reason it floats is because it's using 4 hydrogen tanks, the new Keen small ones. If they're full of hydrogen, they'll be buoyant and they'll float and they'll take along anything with it. We've got one in every one of these corners. As you can see, the front end looks like it's a little bit heavy because the components in this engine are probably the heaviest thing on this boat other than this, actually, other than maybe the battery, which I'm using as my keel, as my lead weight, right, or my iron weight down here. So some of our heaviest components are in the middle to keep it balanced, and then we've got these tanks. You can use oxygen tanks and hydrogen tanks, and I believe it's any block, including modded ones, that hold gas. Based on how much gas they hold, that's how much buoyancy you're going to get when you attach it to your vehicle. So any vehicles, I'll spawn one in right now. We'll bring in the unicorn class. Give it a second to load. Pop that sucker in there and watch it drop. Oh, it's so freaking cool. You can actually see his tanks must be lined up right with where the water line is. That black line is right where the water line is for this boat. So if we go aboard, or if we go into spectator cam, actually, it's just clip through the side here. By the way, this is a fully functioning carrier. Even the lift actually works, which I quite love, and there's plenty of space in here for more aircraft. We might do some carrier operations over on Twitch as soon as I got some time with the community, which would be a lot of fun. But anywho, let's go down to the water line and see if he's got the tanks down there. And what tanks is he using? And that's exactly what we've got. So at the water line, and you can see it, notice it doesn't actually keep the water out.
Fuel critical.
You can see he's got rows and 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 rows of tanks inside here. And they're all hydrogen tanks, and they're all half full. So if I were to remove these or vent them, this thing would sink like crazy. One mod that might go really well for gameplay with this, come to think of it, is probably explosive tanks. Because imagine you're in combat, you've got yourself like a submarine, or you're doing some modern day scenarios. Maybe we'll do it on Twitch where we can have these tanks where if we have the explosive mod for tanks, you take a torpedo, and all of these have to have tanks to have these boats float. They detonate, the tanks explode, and suddenly they start listing over and they start to sink, which I bet if we go ahead and just slide into here, and if I start removing these,
energy.
if it's gonna let me do it. I do have my admin tools on, right? Yeah, I got my admin tools on. If I start removing these guys on one side, turn my light on so y'all can see what's going on. Oh, we're slightly underwater, that's why. Start removing. I want to remove them from only one side though, and maybe from just the back. So we just took a lot of damage. I know it's super dark. I will try to remove these quickly, just to see if we can get it unbalanced. There we go, she's not balanced anymore. Switching out. She's listing over, as if it had taken some damage on one side, and because the keel has no weight in it, it's just rolling over like a bath toy. Now, I bet if I were to stick on here something heavy, one of the heaviest blocks in the game are battery blocks. Is it enough? Is it gonna roll? Yep, it's gonna roll over. So you can design yourself a weighted keel. Actually, that's not that many. And yet it's almost enough. Almost enough. We can put a few more down there. But I know this gives you an idea of like the kind of boats that you can build. I wish there was, I know some people are probably gonna comment about this. There we go, that's the amount of weight we needed to flip her over. I wish there was more in the way of like worrying about if water gets aboard and it starts to flood decks and it starts to throw the weight of the boat off and the boat starts to sink, like those kind of mechanics. I understand why the mod author hasn't probably been able to do that. That's fairly complex. But this, with using the tanks, it works. And it gives us the ability to have working water in SE, which for a long time we've been told that's probably never gonna happen. And yet here we are. It's not balanced at all. Remember, we've got ballast on only one side, keeping it afloat, so very thrown off. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this mod spotlight. I plan on doing a few more now that I'm back. I'll see you all in the next one. Later, everybody.